Week 7 of the NFL season about to get underway. The Bills and the Patriots meeting in Foxborough this weekend. And Vic, this is a matchup that for the longest time was Patriots dominated. Tom Brady and the Pats with Bill Belichick atop the AFC East for so long. But it's a dynamic that shifted in recent seasons with the Bills now having consecutive AFC East titles. And they go into Foxborough as 8.5-point favorites. Just how have you seen the dynamic in this division shift over the recent seasons?
This is astounding, really, to see how dramatic this shift has been, because for the longest time, this was the big wall, the black hole, whatever you want to call it. Whenever the Bills either faced the Patriots in Foxborough or in Orchard Park, it was going to be a problem, and the likelihood is the Bills would end up on the losing end. And to see how the tables have turned is really something, because it tells you, number one, when you've got a franchise quarterback, something the Bills were lacking through most of that series, to have that now in Josh Allen, and for the Pats to no longer have the guy in Tom Brady. Yeah, it tells you just how vital that particular spot is, A, and then B, that the so-called have-nots in any division can become the haves.
And the good news for Buffalo, Josh Allen playing at a high level. We'll get to the offensive struggles here in a little bit, but he's been playing at a high level this season, dealing with that right shoulder injury that he suffered against the Giants. The final injury report from Friday, though, full participant the last 2 days. He looks on track to play Sunday against the Patriots. Obviously, that's a big deal for this Bills offense.
I never felt that it was really a big concern, at least judging from the way Josh Allen talked about it. I mean, he's rarely going to talk about being hurt to the point of not being able to play or not being able to play well. He'll never use an excuse like that. But the fact that he is full go means a lot. And it tells you that, of course, the Bills offense, how well it functions when he's playing, A, his physical best, but B, his performance best. And that is something we want to see now. We haven't seen the completeness from Josh Allen in the last 2 games that we saw in the previous 3, where he not only allowed the game to come to him, he wasn't forcing things, he was in command, he was comfortable. We haven't seen that for the most part in the last 2, especially against the Giants, and that's where the offensive struggles have come in. But when Josh Allen is playing his best, and he's been playing really great football against the Patriots, it makes a difference.
You mentioned the subpar performances the last 2 weeks, just 7 combined first half points against the Jaguars and the Giants. Offensive coordinator Ken Dorsey, he's gotten some heat, especially this week. And let's kind of talk about the blame, I guess. I hate to use that word, but the blame that falls with this issue. Scheme versus execution. How much do you think of their issues is execution wise in terms of them leaving plays on the field, and how much does Ken Dorsey deserve in terms of this offense's issues and him maybe needing to be able to get other guys other than Stephon Diggs involved in this offense?
The offensive coordinator is always going to be under great scrutiny, whether it's with the Bills or any team, and right up there with the quarterback and the head coach. That's where the focus usually is when the offense is struggling. I think Ken Dorsey, by and large, has done a good job with the overall numbers that this offense has produced. But the issue has been the slow starts. The issue has also been struggling against the blitzes that the Giants especially showed the Bills, and then before that, the Jaguars. And the rhythm of the offense has been thrown off by that. Ken Dorsey has to figure that out for not only the offense as a whole, but Allen in particular. And when this offense is functioning at its best, we've seen it this year multiple times, it's when the passing game is balanced, when there are as many as 9 receivers involved in catching the ball, but also the running game. And the running game being involved early on and then consistently throughout. We saw it in the second half against the Giants, and we saw that was when the Bills offense was playing some of its better football, and that didn't arrive until like the fourth quarter. It was almost too late. So you've got to see that throughout, and I think if they can get that going right from the beginning, against the Patriots, you will see a dominance by this offense. And I think Ken Dorsey knows that. And here's the other thing, the criticism of him. Yes, we've heard it from fans. We've heard it from media. But Sean McDermott wants to see better from his offensive coordinator. Sean McDermott does not pull punches when it comes to that side of the ball, not living up to the explosive level that is expected, that he expects. So when the Bills don't come out roaring offensively, that's a problem as much for the head coach as it is for everybody else.
Let's to kind of give some more insight on that. Sean McDermott talking this week saying, hey, it's week 7. We should kind of know what roles these guys can fit in when asked about maybe getting other guys like Deontay Hardy more involved in the offense. But at the same time, he said that Dorsey's responded well to the criticism this week. And at the end of the day, he just wants what everyone wants on this team, which is to win. Do you think that maybe we see a bounce back performance from this offense this week, especially knowing that they're not going up against an offense like the Dolphins offense that might get them into a shootout? They're going up against a Patriots offense that struggled just as much as any other offense in the league.
Well, the first thing is to see how the Pats defense handles the Bills. And if there is one thing the Pats have going for them, it's still that they have a great defensive mind, great coaching mind in Bill Belichick. Now, he can only be as good as his players allow, and there aren't a lot of very good players on that team, which is why this Pats team has struggled as much as it has. But in terms of the defense and the scheming, he will see all the problems that the Giants blitzing, that the Jaguars blitzing gave Josh Allen and that offense, and come up with ways to also throw them off their rhythm. And I fully expect to see that. Now, I think the Bills can overcome that. Especially with allowing the game, Josh Allen allowing the game to come to him, being patient, being in command, not forcing things, not saying that the ball has to go to Stephon Diggs all the time. 16 targets against the Giants, but especially in the first half, it seemed those balls were forced. And that's usually when the problems occur. We saw it turn into a disaster against the Jets. That's the thing he has to avoid. Allen is search out other people who can make plays, and he's got them. And getting Dalton Kincaid back to play, I think, will be especially important in those third down, move the sticks types of catches that he can make underneath coverage as a slot receiver. Get the running backs involved in the passing game as well. That's something we haven't seen enough of, especially with a James Cook who can catch the football. Just make use of everything you've got. And once you get that going, if you can get the early lead, and it's especially important when you've got a bad offense on the other side, get them in an early hole. They will be forced to try to do the same things you don't want to see from the Bills, and that is forced throws, Mac Jones trying to make plays, be a hero out there, and that's usually when the turnovers occur.
Mentioned Dalton Kincaid. Good news with him. Cleared from concussion protocol this week. Full participant this week in practice. Bad news for the Bills. Fellow tight end Quentin Morris, he's ruled out for Sunday's game. And defensively, the big one, defensive tackle Ed Oliver, out for the Patriots game with a toe injury. That means the Bills won't have Daquan Jones on that D-line, won't have Ed Oliver. I know it's a Patriots offense that hasn't run the ball very well, but how much more pressure does that put on a guy like Jordan Phillips, who stepped up pretty well in that Giants game?
The good news for the Bills is that they are facing a very weak rushing offense. But the bad news is, yes, they lose one of their better interior linemen, and then you add that with Daquan Jones's absence, and you have significant holes there. But Jordan Phillips is capable of stepping up. He's done it before and picking up a lot of that slack. I don't know that it'll be perfect, and also missing Matt Milano at linebacker compounds the issue. I would expect the Patriots to try their best to exploit that, to pound the football as much as they can, and then figure out if it's worth staying with. I mean, sometimes if the game isn't out of hand early, you would still try to run the football, as the Giants did too, even when you're not having great success early on, just to be committed to it, give the defense something to think about. But I do think the Bills defense in a game like this, against this kind of opponent, is capable of holding up, even missing so many of these key parts. The concern for me will be longer term to see when they start getting into games where there are better offenses on the other side, and can the defense hold up in those circumstances? That's the question.
Patriots rank towards the bottom of the league in turnover margin. Is this a game where the Bills defense smells blood in the water in terms of being able to take the ball away from the Patriots, or even the Bills offense smells blood in the water where they're like, hey, we might work with some short fields. We have the potential to get some explosive plays and really put this game out of reach early on.
Well, the Bills, from a takeaway standpoint, have been outstanding this season, but the bulk of those takeaways, 11, came through the first 4 games of the season. The last couple of games they've played, it's been only 2 takeaways. So that's got to change. And maybe some of that is a reflection of the injuries that have built up. But as these backups have found their way into the lineup, they have to rise to the occasion. I think we saw some better play as the game evolved against the Giants from some of the backup players the Bills have defensively. It's a matter of just getting more snaps, getting more comfortable, and finding the ways that they can contribute to success. So I would think in a game like this, where I think Buffalo's offense has the distinct edge and can put up more points. Question is, can they put them up sooner than they have, and just force, with that early lead, force the Patriots offense to do things that aren't so safe and methodical. And then the defense making those plays, finding ways to get the ball out of their hands, force turnovers, force errors with the coverage disguises that Sean McDermott can create, the different kinds of fronts, the looks that Mac Jones will see and think he's seeing one thing when it's really another. That is where Sean McDermott has done a tremendous job. He's coached this defense exceptionally well all season long. And even with all the injuries that have piled up, one thing that has been consistent is Sean McDermott's game planning and signal calling.
We've seen him make life difficult for more, I guess, like stationary quarterbacks, right? Jimmy Garoppolo had some issues when he played against Buffalo. Sam Howell, all the turnovers against Buffalo. Mac Jones has had his issues with turnovers. And we were talking a little bit earlier about how he doesn't look like the guy for New England right now. He doesn't look like the same quarterback that played his rookie season against the Bills. Does that make life maybe a little bit, I don't know if it's easier for the Bills defense, but maybe like that pass rush where we're talking about them smelling blood in the water in terms of takeaways? Are they looking at this like we can get after Mac Jones and cause him some issues as well?
I fully expect the Bills' defensive line, even missing a couple of key players in the middle, to generate a lot of pressure, especially from the edges, because this Patriots offensive line has struggled mightily, and their challenges are even greater with a stationary quarterback, and with a quarterback who doesn't react as quickly as he always should. I think Mac Jones, behind a line that is as struggling as the Pats has been, is one that should create the perfect storm for the Bills pass rushers to have a big day.
I always say this about the Giants game, but I'll get to you also about this Patriots game. Is this a game that could get ugly?
It could really get out of hand and ugly. Now, I was predicting that for the Giants game. A lot of us were. The Vegas odds makers had that as a 15-point plus type of outcome. But I do think that even though the game's in Foxborough, and even though this is a divisional opponent, and a lot of times there's that familiarity thing that can work to the benefit of the underdog, in this case the Patriots. But I do believe that the Bills have to find a way, and will find a way, to get out of what has been kind of a 2-game funk, especially with the slow starts. The fast start for me is the thing I'm looking for, and if we see that, then I think it's really like an avalanche on top of the Patriots.
David, one more housekeeping note. Running back Damian Harris placed on IR today. Ty Johnson promoted from the practice squad to the 53-man roster. Just, are you concerned at all with the running back depth, or do you feel like they're in a good place?
I think they're in a pretty decent place because Ty Johnson, showed some flashes we saw in the preseason, and he's a solid player who I think the Bills knew right along would give them decent depth. Now, was he going to factor in the top three of their running backs had this injury not occurred to Harris? Probably not, but it's not surprising to me that the first chance the Bills had to get him activated and make him available from the practice squad, they did, because there is that belief. He's a smart runner, an instinctive kind of runner, and he's got some power. He's got some of the similar traits that you see from Damian Harris. So I think in the change-up sense, with James Cook, that speedier lead back, and then, of course, you've got Latavius Murray, who will see his carries, especially as they get closer to the goal line. And now you bring in, this third back who, to me, has some of those traits that when you're in the middle of the field and you just want to change some things up, he's there to help you do that.
Ready. Bills Patriots 1:00 kickoff in Foxborough Sunday. We'll have Vic to break that game down with us, and you, Adam, and Paul on Sports Talk Live Monday. I can't wait to watch it. Vic, thanks for talking with us, and we'll see you next time.
My pleasure, Jonathan.